What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Spark to Fire. A little bit different now with everything revolving around COVID-19, but we're actually using this opportunity to go remote and to call in some really special people around the United States. I've got Dr. Alex Spinoso, good friend, somebody that I've been following for a long time. He's doing some really cool stuff with stem cell research, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you, dude, for coming on. I know you're a busy guy right now and always, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
No, I appreciate you having me for sure. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll get started. This show's been really Nebraska based up until this point, and so what I want to do is I want to take a second to give you some time to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background story about you, and then we'll dive into kind of what it is you do today.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Dr. Alex Spinoso. I grew up in California, although I had East Coast parents, born and bred in New York and Miami. So I grew up there in California, went to school back east at Dartmouth, in Vermont, went to medical school actually across the pond in England, and in the Caribbean medical school, and then came back after 3 years of finishing medical school and did my residency in Southern California, with a little bit of a specialty in sports medicine. I got into the regenerative medicine space after that through various business partners, regenerative medicine, hormone therapy, a lot of the anti-aging and wellness things as we get older, and ended up building two companies with my business partners in that aspect of things, both SparC Regenerative Centers, which does mainly stem cell research and treatments, and then Genesis Lifestyle Medicine, which does hormone therapy and peptide therapy and health and wellness, blood work, things like that. And then I actually created a medical scrub company as well. So that was something completely different from that. And we've been growing all three of those since only August of last year, really,
Crazy.
2019.
Absolutely insane. So not just one, but three companies that you've decided to start, and talk about the
Yeah.
show is, like I said, the show's called Spark to Fire, right? So talk about that moment that kind of led you into entrepreneurship, or that moment to where it kind of clicked for you that maybe I just maybe I have a different path than strictly becoming a medical doctor, or whatever it is that you were doing before that point. What was the tipping point to kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I've never wanted to be a doctor at all. That was actually the first sentence of all of my applications to any residency, any medical school. It literally said, I do not want to be a doctor. And it was really a fallback. I wanted to play professional soccer, and that's why I went to medical school in England, so I could try that at the same time. Obviously, that didn't work out, so I fell back into medical school over there in England. And since then, I never wanted to be a doctor. So when I graduated, I was looking for, honestly, the job where it was the easiest thing to do and I can make the most amount of money. Because a lot of physicians and nurses will tell you it seems like you make a ton of money, but you really don't at all. It's not how it is. It's not like the old days where you could get flown on your client's private jet around the world and things like that. You don't make money in medicine anymore. So when I went into it, when I got out of residency, I found a government job working for a prison. So I was a prison physician for a while, which is something that really interested me because it was a lot of sports medicine, guys fighting every day, stabbing each other every day, lots
Yeah.
of trauma, things like that, which is really exciting. It made it exciting every day. And along with that, I started working in two different urgent cares at the same time. So I was probably averaging about 100 hours a week minimum from when I graduated residency for 3 years straight. And I bought a great house. I got married, beautiful wife. I got a dog, perfect little life in there in Palm Springs area. And after a while, I was just like, this fucking sucks. It was the same thing over and over and over, and I couldn't think in my head what was the problem. I had a great house, I had money, I had a great wife, I had a great fucking dog. Like, what is missing from my life? And One of my mentors, I follow him on Instagram, Andy Frisella. If some people who are listening watch him or watch his stuff, he went on his Instagram one night and talked about how he absolutely bombed one of his speeches. And he said that he went to an ophthalmologist group, talked about, you know, like you're doing, fire starting, constantly improving yourself, educating yourself, getting better, pushing the envelope, to a group of older physicians who really hadn't done anything new or different for 20 years. You know, these guys were making upper six figures, seven figures, some of them, and they were completely, they were fun, they were happy. There was nothing new for them. And that's when I realized that's what clicked for me right then and there. I was like, holy shit, that's what's missing. You know, I'm doing nothing new. I'm doing nothing different. I'm not challenging my brain at all. It's the same thing day in, day out, over and over and over. And that's at that point, I just like completely snapped and ended up for the next year just completely changing everything around in my business and my health and getting out of my 9 to 5, quote unquote, and really saving money to make that leap into entrepreneurship.
Your 9 to 5 was 100-hour-a-week jobs, three different jobs for 100 hours a week.
Yeah,
Let's not gloss over that. But
yeah.
that's so interesting. You know, I had a friend that put me on to Andy Frisella's content when I was still working at my old company, or the company I used to work for called Trados, and I remember listening to the first 5 episodes of the MF CEO project, and it's now called Real AF. If anybody hasn't listened to that yet, it is a phenomenal watch. And I mean, I've learned so much from Andy, and I'm sure you can say the same. You know, both of us being an Arete
Hmm.
syndicate, it's just been a complete game changer. I feel so far ahead after listening to that content. So I know that feeling of when you see somebody on stage or you see somebody, specifically Andy, talking his stories, and you're just like, oh man, he's talking to me right now. That's the sort of thing I think about. So you went from this cushy lifestyle, you had everything, you know, beautiful wife, dog, cool
Hmm.
house, you live in a great place, and then what? What happens next?
Uh, and then after that snap, I completely changed. What we did was we moved out of the house that we owned in Palm Springs area. Uh, we rented it out on different platforms, and then we moved into a little. It was a 5 bedroom house, and we rented one of the bedrooms. But the first 6 months, we actually lived the foyer, one of the front rooms. So when you walked in, there was a hallway there, and then on each side, there's supposed to be like a TV room and a dining room, right? We ended up living in that like dining room for a good 6 months, and it was completely open, giant open archways and everything like that. Went straight into the kitchen. So what we had to do is we went to Home Depot, bought giant plywood, just sheets, and laid them up against the walls so that we can actually have a little bit of privacy. Now you could hear everything, people walking in and out of the house. I mean, it was literally the door was right there, and there's our room. I mean, we slept on a little air mattress on the floor. We had all of our shit from my house. I had sold most of the furniture, but everything else left over, like our clothes, everything that was valuable to us, in that little tiny, it was like probably 120 square foot room, and for 6 months. And we had to like slide, there was no doors. So, like we were talking about earlier, I had to slide the piece of plywood over and then step out and then slide the piece of plywood back. And if you were tired from a long day, that plywood felt like 150 fucking pounds. It was the worst.
Yeah.
So we stayed there for 6 months, saving up all the money from the rental. Then we moved into the master bedroom. And when we moved into that master bedroom, it was like, we made it. This is the shit right here. Like it was a one bedroom, just a master. We had our own bathroom in there though. To share the bathroom in the main room. So it was like, man, we got our own bathroom. We are balling now. So we lived there for another year and a half. I mean, we didn't have a washing machine or a dryer, so we're doing our clothes at the laundromat every week and a half, 2 weeks. carrying our little bags of change, eating whatever we could get that was really high calorie, low cost, and saved up all of our money from that rental. And at that time, that's when I started to really get into the entrepreneurship thing, getting into masterminds, talking with different people who were business owners. And all the money that I had saved, I focused on building an urgent care clinic. Now, after a while talking with some of my colleagues and some of the people who were already in the business, I found that urgent cares just weren't the way to go. They wouldn't make a lot of money. They were highly expensive, almost $1 million to build one out. That was even worse because I was living in California at the time. So that's when everything changed again, and we started to focus on leaving the state completely. So what I did was we went from Las Vegas and started to we went from Palm Springs and started to drive out to Las Vegas every weekend, which is only about 3 hours away. And I had other entrepreneur friends that were out here in Vegas to talk to, find out about the city, and see what's going on here in Nevada. And the first thing I thought was Vegas. Like, man, I don't drink, I don't gamble, I don't really smoke, and I don't have money to go to strip clubs all the time. So why the hell would I want to go there? It seems like a really nasty place.
While this is all happening, what in the world is your wife thinking?
Oh man, trust me, that was not an easy year and a half. I mean, I thought, hey, we'll be out of it. We'll be in this a year. And it ended up almost being 2 years, actually. I say year and a half. I think it was a little over that, being 2 years in that one bedroom. And she was a trooper. Man, we fought for sure, but who isn't going to when you live in a 120 square foot room? And sometimes we fought like cats and dogs, and we made up over and over and over. And the good thing, I mean, one day we argued so bad that she brought home a dog, and that's how we got our dog.
Yeah.
Bo.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Our second dog. Yeah. So it was like, okay, now we're raising a dog in this tiny little room. But it was awesome. She was absolutely awesome. She's always been an absolute trooper. She's always been a killer. She supported me and whatever we decided to do, and left. She grew up and was raised there in Palm Springs and completely left that to come to Las Vegas. So it was a huge change for her. She had never lived in any other place. So kudos to her. She's actually been my rock the whole time. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been in Arte or anything like that, because I sat her down and asked her if we should do it, because it was a large amount of money at the time, $50,000, and it was about half the stuff that I had saved up for the business, the urgent care that I was planning on at the time. And it's like, well, you don't really buy anything else for yourself, so if you feel like you need to do this, go ahead. And with her blessing, that's when I paid the check and that to do it. But if none of this would exist, honestly, if it wasn't for her saying, yeah, go for it. So
that's cool. And what a testament to your marriage too. The fact that you guys were able to make it through that really rough time. It's interesting. You're an Ed Milet follower as well. He talks about when him and his wife were going through that, Christiana, when they were going through, and I think he had to make her shower at the local YMCA or at the local pool. Is that what happened? I think they were so poor that the building people turned off their water, and they had to go shower down at the pool. So I mean, just having a strong partner that way has got to be really, really important piece of why you're here. And so you go to Vegas. You guys move out of your. So this time you're moved out of your master bedroom. Or are you still in your master bedroom at this point?
No, we're still in the master bedroom at this point. From June, July, and August, we were living in two different places. So during the week, I was still working in my 3 jobs that I had. During the weekends, we would drive out to Vegas, look at different places to live, apartments or whatever, try and figure out where we were going to build the business. In July, I ended up finding a place that we could lease. So rented the place out that we could lease. It's a joint place with a chiropractor at the time. Still at this time, I started to cut back on my work hours at my 3 jobs, but I'm still working them about half of the amount of time. So about 40 hours a week, I'm still working there. And then the other 40 hours to 60 hours a week, I'm out in Vegas, tearing up the carpet in our own clinic and everything like that. So we didn't have to pay a builder to remodel that part, making sure the walls are ready for paint, etc. Getting that back and forth, driving back and forth, back and forth. And then we finally just flipped and went full time at the end of July, middle to end of July. We left our house we left that 1-bedroom apartment in Palm Springs, moved out to Vegas. For the next 2 weeks, I worked on the clinic. My wife came with me, helping tear up carpets and everything like that. Yeah. We got a contractor to come in and do a floor and walls within a week. And we opened on August 1st. And that's both the SPARC Regenerative Centers and the Genesis Lifestyle Medicine opened like on August 1st. And we rolled from there. I actually stole, my first employee was from my urgent care. And I asked her, hey, do you want to come with me? Do you want to move to Vegas or whatever? So that was a huge step for her. Her and her daughter came out with us, and we actually lived together in an apartment here. We rented a townhome here, so we lived together. My clinic director, her daughter, me, my wife, and my dog, all in one house for the first 6 months of living here in Vegas, just trying to make this work and getting the wheels spinning and everything like that. Ended up selling our house in Palm Springs so we could have capital for the business, and we haven't looked back from there.
And that's how you build culture, right? Make people, make your top employees come and live with you.
Yeah, make your top employees live with you.
Right.
Force them to live with you and take care of their kids, and then you can see how the parents are pretty much.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So what was that like getting into business there, and how did that go? By the way, I remember all the Instagram stories from your profile of you guys ripping up carpet, and I just remember this mound. Like, it was a mound almost as tall as you were, and against the wall. I'm just like, my God, he is working his face off out there. And so what was it like the first few months in business when you guys started up? And can you explain to everybody a little bit about what you guys actually do within that practice, specifically with SPARC?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was terrifying, honestly, to say the least. You don't know if you're going to be able to pay bills. You don't know if you're going to be able to pay rent. You don't know if you're going to be able to pay for food. And that's not only for yourself, that's for your employees too. From now on, I'm responsible for how other people eat and live and grow. And that was terrifying. Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. I couldn't just go to my 100-hour-a-week jobs and leave and not care about anything. Like, you couldn't just, you had to give a shit.
Right.
Actually. So that was scary at the beginning. It was really scary, but I had worked to this point for over a year and a half. It was 2 solid years of like personal development stuff, saving up money. I was saving up money before we moved out of our house, saving up, planning to do something better, focusing on the future and figuring out, hey, what's the best way to spend our money in this time now, so that later on down the line we'll have the money to do what we really want to do. We passed up a lot, obviously, of living in a 1-bedroom rented place. We passed off a lot of good things. My wife hasn't had a new car. She still hasn't had a new car in 4 or 5 years. So she owns a little cockroach that you might die in when you drive. But I mean, maybe later this year we'll get her a car. But it's those things that we all kind of passed up on, that were kind of what you need to do as a business owner and as an entrepreneur at the beginning. And what we do specifically in the SPARC side of things is we do a lot of regenerative therapy. So we use stem cells, umbilical cord stem cells. After mothers give birth to healthy babies, they can donate the umbilical cords to stem cell banks. And we get the stem cells from different stem cell banks, and we use them in the body to help with regeneration of joints, regeneration of the spine, regeneration of nerves, things like that. all under medical studies to try and help improve people's lives. And it's nothing new. It's been around for 30, 40 years in the United States. The U.S. actually has the largest umbilical cord stem cell bank in the world. So we've been able to provide that service to people. And with the ultimate goal of avoiding surgery.
Right. And so what's a common practice injury that you're helping treat? What's like one of your most common ones?
Meniscus tears in the knees is probably one of the most common ones. Rotator cuff tears, slip discs in the back with pinched nerves. Those are all ailments that people have that we treat a lot of joint pains and joint injuries. That's probably 80% of what we treat on that side of the coin. Yes.
Yeah. And so you've got this one clinic, or excuse me, back then you had this one clinic, and how has that changed from just having the one to where you are today?
Yeah, so we opened very, very fast, and I issue that as a warning because we opened too fast, and we really got ourselves in the nuts too early on. We opened this Las Vegas one. A month later, we opened Scottsdale, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado. So we had 3 offices open, and the problem was that because this was something new, my business partner actually had at the time 5 hormone clinics.
Wow.
So he ran 5 hormone clinics. He asked me to be his medical director. I told him, fuck off. I didn't want to work for anybody else. This is why I'm doing this. So I don't have to work for anybody else.
Unemployable.
And he said, well, why don't you? Yeah. So he's like, why don't you become a partner in this? And I'm like, my attention. So I became the medical director and part owner in those businesses, brought those 5 over to our 3. So now we have 8 clinics total.
Wow. Between
both of us combined. And that's when we started to get in trouble because we didn't have all the SOPs in order, the standard operating procedures. We didn't know in terms of scaling how to train people. Because for those 3 offices, it was me and my clinic director. That's it, in 3 different states. So literally we were on a plane twice a week, going to a different state, seeing patients, treating patients, and then going to a different state, seeing patients, treating patients, my wife, babysitting her daughter and taking her to school and things like that. So it got exhausting real quick. And with any type of business, you need to stay in one place for a set amount of time and really focus on building the foundation. If you're doing 3 different things in 3 different places and don't have a foundation built in those 3 different things, you are going to fail, period. That's just how it is. So we grew so fast that we're like, whoa, shit, we don't have enough staff to put in these places because we don't know how to train them, and we don't just want to throw people in there because we want to have, we've always talked about like the Disneyland level service. We do a lot of customer service things that other clinics don't do at all. So we want them to feel different. And you just can't teach that within a week and throw somebody in a clinic and think that they're going to succeed and that clinic's going to be what you want it to be. So we had to go back to square one and slow down the amount of patients that we saw in Arizona and Colorado. And still, we're 8 months in now, we're still slower in both of those clinics. We still haven't hired all the staff we need to, gotten everything in order, because we've been working on focusing on the standard operating procedures, getting all the extra things that we want to put in the clinic, services, etc., into the clinic, so that once we scale, getting all those scaling and expanding things in place, telemedicine company, a diet and nutrition company, all in line with us, a pharmaceutical company, all in line with us, so we're able to treat our patients and scale it massively very quickly once we get all that done. And we're very close. Actually, we were going to open our second office here in Vegas, and an office in Frisco, Texas, and an office back east in May, April, May, June.
Right.
Obviously, the world freaking came to an end
in
between that time, so that's all been pushed back. But now we have all those services in place, and all those plays in place, and our marketing has gotten cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, that we could start to really expand now and grow exponentially.
Yeah, you guys have done a phenomenal job marketing yourself, both in this business and your scrubs business. I love seeing that stuff come across my feed. And so you're not only running, several locations, but you also have 2 other businesses that you're helping to or that you are running. Mm-hmm. So what's that like? I mean, I know what it's like to be spread too thin. I don't have to ask you that question, but what have you learned from, what have you learned from SparK that you're now applying to those other businesses as well?
I think a couple of the main things are, I was fortunate enough, and not everybody is fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough to have I have really great business partners, phenomenal business partners. And when you look for a business partner, look for a partner that has skills or abilities that you don't have. Mm-hmm. Because if that business partner is exactly like you, has the same skills, has the same abilities, there's no fucking point in them being a partner. They can be an investor, but there's no point in being a partner. My partners are very different and bring a very different aspect to all 3 of my companies than I do.
How so?
I've been able to lean on them for certain things.
Yeah. How so, actually? Talk about the differences between you and your partners, and what should people look for specifically?
Absolutely. So my business partner with Genesis Lifestyle Medicine and with SparK, Brent Messer, he was an RTA Syndicate member.
Oh, yeah, I know that
first
name.
year.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was an RTA Syndicate member the first year. He was the one who had owned the hormone clinics before. He's not a physician. He's just a business owner that knew how to run these hormone clinics, knew the back end. He's very good. He's done his own marketing for the clinics for 10 years before I got around. So he's been a phenomenal aspect in that I went to medical school. I know the medicine side of things, the licensing side of things, the standard of care side of things, and we've both worked on bringing a different aspect to the waiting room and things like that, because that's what I know, that's what I live in, with all the personal care and customer service and things like that. So I focus more on that, and he's focused more on the marketing, because I have no idea how to fucking market. I mean, that's not what I do. He's focused more on the different connections with the pharmacies, and with getting us branded material like Genesis t-shirts and SparK t-shirts and stuff like that. And we kind of play off each other that way, in that he knows those things and I don't at all. So we've been teaching each other kind of both aspects of what we do. My business partner with the scrub company, Lewis, is very different. The guy is a freaking killer. He's an ER physician. He owns his own ERs, urgent cares, chocolate company, medical scribe company. And what I learned from him really is vertical integration in a lot of things. So all of the companies that I own, I mean, 2 of them run out of the same building. And the third one, the scrub company, supplies everybody in those buildings with clothing. Mm-hmm. So I don't do anything different. Like, I don't do real estate on the side. I don't do like other investments on the side right now. Maybe when I get older, but all these things, like, they literally intertwine with each other, and they pay each other so they can survive off of each other only if I needed to. And that's the important part, is if you want to build multiple companies, multiple businesses, don't be doing 3 different things that are in completely different directions. Like the SparK and the Genesis, they literally required nothing different at all. I mean, there are different services, but the building was the same. The medical suppliers are going to be the same. The staff is the same. There was no extra teaching that I had to give my staff other than what I already do with joint injections and stuff like that. There was nothing extra that I had to do, so it was something that I could easily plug and play into my business, and we could keep rolling. Same with the clothing. The clothing was completely different than anything Lewis and I had ever done, and that was really weird getting into it at the beginning. But now that we have it, we just are plugging into our people that we already know, the nurses, his medical scribe company, my clinics, our old physician colleagues, both of us. So that was an easy way to go that way because we already had connections. So if you're thinking of a business to do and you're passionate about, make all those connections before you decide to just jump in and launch something, because if you don't have any connections, you don't have any background, you don't have anything to kind of say, hey, buy this shirt or buy this cream or some shit like that, and nobody believes in you, nobody knows who you are, nobody's going to purchase that at the beginning, then you're going to fail because you need clients. Every company needs more clients, period, except for maybe Amazon.
Right. Yeah. The one. What's really interesting about that, I read a book, it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. I don't know if you've read that book or had a chance yet, but
yep.
So it's interesting. And you mentioned in that book, he talks about the adjacent possible, which is something that's about 10 degrees off from what you're currently doing in your business, but they definitely overlap. When big companies like Amazon, and they're probably a pretty strange example, but say, companies that are massive that aren't afraid to have a little bit of innovation, they require innovation to stay alive. They always have, this piece of it that always applies back to them. Always, we could house that here, or our innovation hub people are also directors in this part. They're looking for ways to join those two together so they're not so sporadic and they're over here. Because to some people, starting a clothing company, if you would have just said clothing company, wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But you started a scrubs company, and that field better than anybody. So it makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm glad you're the second successful person to tell me that in the last month, because I was even looking at a new business venture myself, and a mentor of mine sat me down and he said, is this a want or is this a need? And then the second question is, how does this tie back to Grindstone, which is your bread and butter business? And I couldn't give him a straight answer, and I'm just like, shit. Okay, well, I guess I can't do that right now then, because I'm not to that point. Similar to like you with real estate, I'm just not to that point yet to where I can just say, well, the meat and potatoes is all taken care of. I'll just go start, investing in some sides, right? So that's really
one of the best pieces of advice to build on that. One of the best pieces of advice I got from a gentleman named Roland Frazier, and this is what he does. He goes and buys and sells companies. And he has a digital marketing company, and then he went and bought companies around that original company. So what he recommends doing, and what we've been doing, actually, my business partner and I in the clinics now have been filling out almost every single pathway in your business. So if you have a digital marketing company, you outsource maybe the video editing, you outsource the marketing, you outsource the Facebook ads, you outsource all those things. Going and finding those businesses and buying those businesses, or partnering with those businesses. And there's certain ways to do. I'm not going to get into it. It's crazy. But if you look, Roland Frazier buy businesses, you can put a huge spider web of 20 different businesses that fit in with Grindstone.
Yeah.
20 easily. And those are the businesses you should go into or add to your service, because because then you control everything in your spider web. And that's how you absolutely build a huge dominating presence, is that you control every single step of the business, from the production to the filming to the outsourcing to the marketing. Once you have all that in line, you've built this giant conglomerate of companies together. And that was one of the greatest advices that I ever got, because when I talk to really extremely wealthy people, there's the $100 million man and stuff like that. But when you talk to billionaires, they have a portfolio of 15, 20 different companies. But those 15, 20 different companies, probably 60 to 70% of them talk to each other directly.
Yep.
That they are directly involved with each other, directly involved. And they may not even have market share. They may not even have 51% of any of these businesses. They may own 20 businesses, 19 of which they own 20% of. All the other businesses are feeding their other businesses in the spider web, and that's how you really grow. So that's great advice that you add.
I love that, and I would love an opportunity to meet Roland Frazier, because That's literally, that's what I want to do. Is I want to grow Grindstone to be this, to be this large marketing conglomerate that has different, investments in different areas. So I definitely want to meet him. If you could ever set that up, I'd appreciate it. And, we're kind of getting closer to the end of the call here, but what other piece of advice would you give to somebody that's considering going into business today? And then I want to talk about COVID a little bit before we get done. But first, what's some advice you give to entrepreneurs starting out today?
The advice that I've always given to people, even before I was in the entrepreneurship world, in the medical school world, it holds true once you go into the entrepreneurship world, is that there is always somebody dumber than you that got way further than you because they just were too stupid to fucking quit. That's it. There's always somebody dumber than you. Always somebody dumber than you. You get an A or you get a C in medical school, they still call you doctor, but there is somebody guaranteed to be dumber than you that is doing way better than you. And the same as in business. And I don't say this to talk down to anybody, but when I first started getting into mastermind groups, I felt like I was cool. I was a doctor. I had at the time 3 different degrees, higher learning degrees, an MBA, my MD, some other degrees that with specialization in different things. And I made $500,000 a year, brought home. And I had 90% of my colleagues in these companies had not graduated high school. I mean, some had been in jail before, and they were making well over 7 figures. And that was a huge eye-opening factor, is that you do not have to be. I was book smart. I was the smartest person in the room, quotations, because I obviously wasn't. I obviously was not by any means that. And Ed will tell you that as well, and so will Andy, and so will almost any entrepreneur that you talk to. A lot of them didn't have higher education or left higher education. So when I tell people who are scared, like, oh, I don't know how to do that, how am I supposed to figure all that shit out? I mean, Google. Like, half of the shit that I did, we built our scrub company off of Google. We literally Googled how to make a medical scrub company, and there was a 12-step process that we just followed.
Yeah.
So it was literally doing it that way is the best. You just jumping in, learning everything you can about it from Google, reaching out to people through Instagram and Facebook and DMing. We have so much stuff at our fingertips to be able to learn. Don't be afraid to learn new things. You're gonna suck at it at the beginning. I'm not the best business owner. I never will be, but I can get better every single freaking day with all the things that I learn. And so that's what I tell people the most is, hey, don't worry about being the smartest. Don't worry about having all chips in a row. We sometimes just throw things out there and roll them out and say, okay, now what do we fix? And we change bike tires as we're riding the bike and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You constantly have to just go, grow, and adapt and change.
Yeah. And that's phenomenal advice. And I 100% agree with you. I think you've done a really, really good job of explaining that it can, things can still definitely work out even if you get a little bit ahead of yourself as well, because you guys are doing phenomenal now. You got tons of locations, 8 total locations right now, and you're looking to open,
Yep.
I mean, you want to open one in every state, or what are your thoughts?
3 or 4 by the end of the year. Yeah, we want to open one in each state or have partners in almost every single state. The goal is 100 in 3 years.
103
so
years.
It's taken us, about we're still less than a year out. We've almost hit. We'll hit 7 figures within the next month or so. With 9 months, 10 months into this.
Amazing.
So we're just rolling. We're just rolling.
That's so great. And it's so cool to see that. Speaking of adapt or die, which is a perfect segue into this conversation, tell me about your involvement with COVID-19 and what you guys did. I saw some stuff on Instagram, and Jacob, when you see this, I want you to put the picture of you in your full scrubs with the glasses on and everything. I want to see that in the video. But talk about what happened there. Explain that to me a little bit.
Yeah, so COVID-19, as you know, is a virus. There's two very virulent strains that have been circling around the globe, causing a myriad of issues. The stem cell company that I work with actually was able to get both strains of COVID-19, which you can do for research, and put that in a petri dish with lung tissue. And we know that COVID-19 affects the lungs the worst. And we noticed how it was damaging the lung tissue, causing a buildup of phlegm and things like that, a pneumonia-like death. And what we found out is that when we put our stem cell product in the petri dish with the COVID-19 and the lung tissue, the lung tissue actually boosted its own immunity enough to fight off the COVID-19. So we essentially, hopefully, maybe found treatment, but also a possible natural immunization to COVID-19. So we found that even tissue that was infected with COVID-19, when we put the product in there, it helped fight off COVID-19 and the so we started to postulate, hey, we can actually treat COVID-19 patients with this. This is a possibility. Now, we were originally using this product for COPD in a COPD research protocol. So we were trying to help improve lung tissue, its elasticity, people can breathe better with COPD, things like that. And we actually changed and we're now working with the FDA to get what's called an emergency IND, investigational new drug approval. And that is to help actually treat COVID-19. So we have, through the ability to give this stem cell to a few patients that have COVID-19, we've actually used there's another little bylaw in all of these FDA and EIND rules. The government is very, very difficult to get through when it comes to the medical field.
Sure.
We are able to use a pathway that kind of cancer patients use as well, is that if there's no other treatments available, they can try it, and there's nothing good for them, they can try and use these other products, these other treatments. As it's like a compassionate care treatment. So we've been able to treat just 2 patients in our IND, our investigational new drug study, and the patients that we treated have improved immensely. In fact, so well that within 5 days they were negative for COVID-19.
Really?
So now we're working. Now we're working with the going from almost being admitted to the ICU to walking around breathing just fine, doing phenomenally well. So we've now got that research. We're hopefully going to publish that soon. And we're working with the FDA to work on another emergency IND to keep that going and go to the next step of that.
That's incredible. Congratulations, by the way, for taking that.
Thank you.
Well, for taking that on, thinking that, we can become a solution to this problem and we can really, truly help people. And I mean, obviously the financial gain from this, if that happens, is literally going to change everyone's life and your life included. And I think it's risk takers that deserve the benefit of that. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And the biggest part is we just want to help. We want to be able to provide research, enough research and treatments to that so that people can actually get back to work. The money thing in research, you don't make money. We're not doing it to make the money. We're doing it to show that, hey, we can actually do this and do it quicker than an 18 to 24 month vaccine that's going to come out that's really untested in humans. This has been tested for years in these research studies, and we can show that data. And we can show that, hey, if we work together on this, we could actually get a lot of people back to work and people not worried about being out there and not terrified, because when they turn on the news, as you know, you're going to die, guaranteed, if you walk outside.
Right.
And it's getting really, really rough, and people are losing their businesses, they're losing their livelihoods, they're taking their own lives. Children are not eating, spouses are being abused. Because of this whole lockdown fiasco. So we want to get back to work as fast as possible.
Yeah. My question to you is, what should we be doing to kind of protect ourselves against this? And what's your advice to anybody that's got questions about, COVID-19?
Yeah, so I think the major thing that we've learned from COVID-19 is that it is a disease that really affects elderly and immunocompromised. 99% of the patients in Italy that passed away had one or more comorbidities. And a comorbidity is something such as age, above the age of 65, high blood pressure, diabetes, some other disease that made it worse. In the United States, the biggest things that we've linked to COVID deaths has been obesity. So, if I were to give any type of advice whatsoever, my main advice would be to get moving, get outside, breathe fresh air, get sunlight. That's all going to help your body produce immunity and boost its own immunity to where if you get some sort it boosts its own immune system to where if you get some sort of virus, if you happen to get COVID-19, your body is primed to fight it as best as possible. If you sit only indoors, you don't leave your house, you wear a mask all the time, the problem is you're not only circulating your own carbon dioxide straight into your own breathing system, is that you're not moving, you're not getting sunlight, so you're not naturally boosting anything. Our bodies were made to be outside. I mean, we were made to actually walk around, move, soak up sunlight, breathe fresh oxygen. And all of those things really contribute not only to your health and to your immune system, but they also really contribute to your life and your mental health and all of those aspects of it as well. Feeling like you're not imprisoned at home, which is what a lot of governments have made us feel right now. If you go outside, you'll get arrested. If you try and open your business, you'll get arrested. So the main things that I've been telling people is to get out, get moving, get exercise. That is going to help you not only fight off COVID-19, but get through this mentally as well.
That's a great piece of advice, and that's one thing that I'm doing 75 Hard, as you're familiar with Andy Frisella, and I was really blessed to actually start that right when this happened. I think I started on February 24th, and this all happened around March 13th. And so I've been rolling straight through this, and I'm done on, I think, May 8th. So that's been a huge blessing. And for anybody that isn't familiar with that, I know everybody in Arte really thinks highly of it. It's called 75 Hard. It's a program that really just helps with your mental toughness, physical fitness, reading. It's just a great program. But that has been really helpful for me to constantly stay moving, even through this thing, because it is. Sometimes it's easy to just sit inside and think, well, I could just hop on a Zoom call and then maybe I'll go back to watching Netflix. And there's so much of that going on right now, and we need to be outside. We need to be getting in that fresh air, and I really agree with that. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, that routine.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, Alex, and I think a ton of people got value out of this because we covered so many different things, from starting at the very bottom to figuring out what your spark to fire moment was to living in a hallway, basically. You've had an incredible journey just in the short amount of time that I've known you, and I'm really excited to keep up with you and to keep watching you grow within this, and look forward to coming to one of your clinics in the future if I ever have any issues. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Landon. This is an awesome podcast, and I think it's needed in times like these where people are unsure of themselves. They need to remind themselves and listen to. I mean, almost every single entrepreneur did go through some horrible time where we were all didn't think we were going to make it, and that's normal. If you're there, don't worry. Keep pushing through. Keep grinding. And just really thank you for having me on, Landon. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on again, dude. I really appreciate your time. And as usual, guys, keep striking.